Welcome back, guys. Episode 149. I'm super excited. We're almost at 150. This one is how to make decisions. Carmen,
Yes.
what is your process for making decisions?
Ooh, so I'm a little bit of a thinker. So I have a tendency to think about a lot of things and kind of weigh them out before I make a decision.
Okay. So
Um,
you kind of have like this, whether it's written or not written, like a pros and cons list. Is that what?
yes, yes, I guess it ends up being a pros and cons list. Yeah,
Okay.
it's kind of advantages and disadvantages. That's the same
Okay.
thing, I guess. Yes,
Advantages and disadvantages list of this decision. Okay.
yes.
What's the next step?
Um, so so I will compile a list in my head.
Okay.
Um, and then I will sit with it, and I really want to like see what does my gut feel like, right?
Okay.
Because sometimes um I've made decisions in the past where it's kind of been disconnected, and I'll just like analyze the decision to death. And
Mhm.
so now I slow down. I'm like, oh, what does my gut feel like? And sometimes that decision will override my advantages and disadvantages.
Okay.
But that's something if it's like a decision that I'm somewhat confident about. Okay.
Okay.
If it's a decision I'm not confident about, I do seek advice from others. Like I will bring it up to people that I care about and be like, well, um, and take their 2 cents into consideration as well.
Okay. And then what's your next step?
Um, because I analyze things, and sometimes I feel like I say to myself, because I'm a planner, I don't always make decisions quickly.
Okay. Yeah. I'm picking up on that.
Yeah. um, and if it's, yeah, especially big decisions, I'm not always great about making big decisions quickly.
Okay.
But then if I decide to, when I make a decision, I usually take those steps to like either decide yes or no on a particular event or topic. Um, and then great big decisions, sometimes I get overwhelmed in the process and then I don't make them.
Okay. So big decisions we go into and we make the decision to be in indecision.
Yes, I will stay in indecision.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
it won't be a definite one way or the other.
Okay. And I want to be clear, like I'm kind of coaching, but I want to be clear with people like, yeah, get into indecision. Indecision is not a location. Indecision is a decision that we have made.
True.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So we chose to be in indecision for big
Yeah.
decisions. Other decisions you decide on and start taking action. Is that what I heard?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Do you then, two more questions. Do you waffle? Like when you've made decisions, do you kind of waffle back and forth or do you question your decision? Or if this decision doesn't go well, do you like beat yourself up?
So I have a tendency to waffle.
Okay.
Patient. Um, I don't beat myself up. If the decision doesn't go right, I will pivot and yeah, decide something different.
Okay.
But I will waffle in the beginning. Yeah,
Okay.
kind of this like, you know, little hesitation of like, okay, I'm going to decide this, and it's like, is this okay? Is this a good decision? And then eventually I'll be like, all right, let's just go with it. Let's see what happens.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What is your identity? Like, how do you think about yourself as a decision maker? Like what is your thought about yourself as a decision maker?
Ooh. I'd like to think I'm a good decider.
Okay.
I don't know if historically it looks like that, but yeah. Um,
You said I would like to think I'm a good decider. So that implies that you don't think you or you're, yeah, it implies that you don't think that you are.
because historically I have not been great at making decisions.
Okay. So
Um,
your identity is I'm not a great decision maker.
yeah, I'm not a um probably not a confident decision maker, right?
Okay.
Like that I would say that I'm not always a confident decision maker. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how I think about myself as a decision maker is I'm not a confident decision maker, but I would like to be one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then you know the model. you can see how you make decisions
Right.
is flowing out of that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Does it work for you? Like how you
Um,
make decisions, how you are as a decision maker, does it work for you? You like the way you do it?
let's see. So to be honest, there are things that I wish I could do better. Right.
Okay.
For the for I can't even say for the most part. It's probably 50-50. Like when I'm making decisions about my business, sometimes um I still think about it and still kind of like in my mind make that advantages and disadvantages. Um, but then am better at like making that decision and kind of drawing that line to be like, no, I'm gonna, move forward on this. Um, Big decisions as far as personal decisions go, I could use a lot of help on
Okay.
that because I am not as confident. And sometimes those decisions, I can stay indecisive I can stay in a state of indecisiveness and it's not harmful, right? May not be helping me, but it's not harmful. So I can kind of stay here for a little bit longer.
Okay.
Um, it doesn't feel harmful in the space, right?
Right.
But then when I look back and I'm like, oh, see, I shouldn't have sat on that long, or I should have, yeah. I should myself, and then it becomes a problem.
Yeah. So should is always sister's shame. So then we shame
Yeah,
ourselves. Yeah.
yeah.
So do decisions feel heavy or light for you?
Ooh, heavy.
Heavy.
I usually have a tendency to feel heavy for me.
Yeah. So they're weighty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're probably pretty normal. I would guess that most people are like this with the decisions. So I've learned this new idea. I guess I'll talk about how I am as a decision maker to contrast. Like I have this thought, like I am a great decision maker. Of
Yeah.
course, right? The theme is Kim is a very confident human. I do. I'm just like, yeah. But I learned this from watching from my family system because my dad is a very like he just makes decisions
Mm-hmm.
and goes and doesn't second guess. My mom lives in indecision and it was painful for me. So it just like I made decisions and I was always like, I don't care, I'll suffer the consequence because the consequence is going to be less painful than living in indecision.
Uh,
Right.
yeah.
And I saw how when decisions for me before coaching were very heavy because they were like life or death. You get married, you don't ever get a divorce, right? So then I felt like that was a very committed. So all my decisions had like these heavy, heavy commitments,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, then when I got a divorce, I was like, oh, I live. I'm fine. Maybe there's no decision that's like that heavy. The only decision I can come up with, and it's pretty morbid, the only decision I can come up with that's like very like there's no coming back from it, no changing your mind, is a decision to commit suicide. I can't change my mind after that, right? Pretty
True.
much everything else, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can just change your mind again.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah. You
married him,
still.
nope. Getting a divorce, change my mind, right? Live in this state, I'm gonna change my mind, I'm gonna live in another state. Do this profession, I don't like it, I'm gonna change my mind, I'm gonna do a different profession. Like, none of them are like life or death.
True. Yeah. Yeah.
So then they're like, that kind of removes the heaviness off of most decisions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so my identity is I'm a good decision maker. But what helps me with that identity is that I have my own back.
Mm-hmm.
I've decided like whenever I make a decision, that's it. I've decided and I'm not going to throw myself under the bus. I'm not going to like go into expert level 2020, right? Like we're all experts when we can look back and have 2020, right? Like
Yeah.
no, that's bull crap. I'm not doing that. Like I made
Yeah.
the best decision with information I had and I know I will pivot because decisions are two things. You're either going to make a decision and get what you want, win, or you're going to make a decision and it's not going to go the way you want, but you're going to get a lot more clarity, win. So there's no bad decisions.
I see. Yeah.
There's
It takes
this,
a lot of,
go ahead.
it changes the perspective. It takes a lot of weight out of it, right?
Yeah.
That it's like, oh, no, it's not the end of the world if your decision doesn't play out the way that you expect it to, that you can still change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You always get to decide again. So I either decide I win, or I decide and I get clarity and I'm even more clear and I make another decision. I'm never getting off track.
Yeah.
I'm always on track. Decided, stayed on track, decided, didn't go how I want, got clarity, still on track.
On track. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. It kind of highlights the flexibility, right? Instead of like oftentimes when we think, okay, we think of decisions, well, I don't know why I think this way. We were programmed, right? The decisions are a fork in the road. You either pick right or you pick left, and you can't go back, right? Like you pick one direction, and then you're on that path. But they don't always teach you, oh, but look, 10 feet in front of you, there's a sidewalk that cuts back to the other side.
Yes.
You don't have to go back to go to the left.
I mean, think about like hiking. I know that you've
Yeah.
hiked. I've hiked a ton in Colorado,
Yeah.
right? And like, if you take hiking as an analogy, like you pick this trail, there's a fork. You either go this way or this way, right? You might see two different views, right?
Yeah.
Let's say neither one of let's say these two trails don't end in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. I have a couple decisions here. I don't like this location. I either turn around, walk back, go find the other trail, go do that one. Great. Or I get off trail and I cut through the grass to the other trail.
Yeah. You still have options.
Yes.
That's true. That definitely makes it feel not as heavy and not as like you're stuck with, that decision.
And what makes it heavy is we think that it's like we're stuck, but also what we make it mean about us. If I decide and this doesn't go well, your brain is terrified of what you're going to make it mean about you and how crappy you are going to be to you. Yeah. That's why when I make a decision, I decide I'm all in on me. So my brain feels safe. Kim's not going to be mean to me. This doesn't go right. She's not going to shame me. She's not going to make it mean anything about us. She just like expects it. Yeah. Like some decisions it goes right. Some decisions I get clarity. I win either way.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're winning either way. Like, yeah, you can't go wrong if you've got your back. And like, okay, we're in it together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which means we can change our mind anytime instead of, what's the word? Judging ourselves, right?
Yes.
And putting that extra pressure on. Yeah. So I have realized, I've realized this several times in my life that when I'm making decisions, the only one that's putting the pressure on is me.
Yes.
It's not anybody else. It's me. Yeah, that's making that decision much harder than it has to be.
Yes.
Yeah. Or than it probably technically is in real life. That it's me and my perspective. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I use this, I was coaching actually on how to make a decision with a client before we got on. And I used this example. And it was like, okay, I followed this girl on TikTok and she has an amazing journey. So she was born female. She transitioned, did the surgeries and everything, transitioned to male. She was male for 10 years. And now she is detransitioning back to female. Okay.
Yeah.
If we can decide what gender we want to be, surgically switch genders, decide again, to change back to another gender, there's no decisions that are life and death, Harley.
Yeah. That yeah, that's true. Yeah. Um I think yeah, no, you're right. The weight that we create in our decision making is totally on us. Like you can still make a decision like transitioning. You can make a decision about marriage. You can take I think like some of the big decisions that I have challenges with are things that are like buying a house, right? Things that are going to cost a lot that I perceive that are going to cost a lot,
Mm-hmm.
that are going to be very like labor intensive and stuff. But that's my perception of those
Mm-hmm.
things. That decision is not hard.
Right.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Okay.
And what's most painful is when we stay in indecision. So like I just
Yes.
went from like one, I was in one mastermind, um, and it ended. And I got the invitation to do another round, which it was $15,000 more. So $25,000. I've never spent that much money on anything. I've never been in debt, right? And I spun in indecision for days, which was painful, right? And then I finally just decided and made the decision. No issues.
Yeah.
The most painful part were those 4 days in indecision.
Just trying to decide and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I sit down and think about it and am honest with myself that even just putting together like the advantages and disadvantages lists in my head, that takes a lot of energy and
Yes.
can be a little bit anxiety provoking
Yes.
sometimes. Yeah. And that's probably why sometimes I reach out to other people to help to make that decision
Mhm.
because then it's like somehow having their opinion or somehow like them experiencing my anxiety around this decision making process is going to make it easier.
Right.
It usually doesn't in the
Yeah.
long run, but
No. But I'm not saying like my decision making process is either like I either know immediately.
yeah,
And if I don't, if it's like bigger decisions that are have like $25,000 investment, right?
yeah,
I know I need to spend some days riding the emotional roller coaster.
yeah,
It's totally fine. Like I'm willing to spend days and not make a decision to ride the roller coaster so I can feel in my gut. And I need to externally process with someone. I need to get it out of my head, talk about it, so then I can get a lot clearer and get all of the fear driven thoughts out of the way so I can get some clarity.
right, yeah,
And then I just decide, I'm going to decide. And I'm going to
right,
decide this is the best decision ever.
yeah,
Right. And then, like, you get in and you're like, oh, this is like exactly like the last round. Right. Like, okay, great. I'm not going to beat myself up. Then how do I make sure that I get 25K worth of value?
yeah. Make the most of it. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
That help.
Yes, yeah. Um, that does. It helps me kind of like keep perspective about making decisions because you can get bogged down really easily. And
Hmm.
sometimes if you get used to being confident and having your own back, right? And even making like the smaller decisions, I
Hmm.
could see how it'd be, smoother and a little bit less emotional and like turmoil about making bigger decisions.
And I think also like the most painful decision in the world for me is and the question that's so painful is what do you want to eat? I hate that question. Um, I'm not a foodie, so I don't care, right? Like I don't want to spend
Yeah,
brain energy making a decision on that. So I usually
yeah,
like, okay, husband who is likes food, what
yeah,
do you want to eat? Give me two options. I will choose,
yes,
right? Or if you're going to ask me what I want to eat, I'm going to tell you the one option I want to eat. You get to counter with what you
right.
want to eat, and then we'll choose out of the two. But like, I don't know. What do you want? No, not available for that.
Yes, I understand that.
I mean, it's painful, is it not?
It is painful. Yeah. It is painful. And it can be, yeah, frustrating, you know, because it's that indecision,
Yes.
right? But then when you think about it, you're like, no, I didn't really want this to begin. Like when the decision's made and you didn't make it,
Oh, yeah.
right? And then you're like, oh, I really didn't want this.
Yeah.
Or there's like nothing on the menu that I can eat. It's like, oh, I probably just should have said something the first time.
There's a coach, she has like, she's super efficient. And like,
Hmm.
she had on her podcast, she talked about like her and her husband. Um, because decisions require a lot of mental brain power, right? And
Yeah.
like Steve Jobs, if you read about Steve Jobs, like he tried to cut as many decisions out of his life as possible to use that brain power for creativity.
Yeah.
So he had like, I believe, all black turtlenecks
Hmm.
and blue jeans. So there was no decision on what to wear. Cut that
Yeah.
decision out, right? So she's talking about this, and she said that they made a decision in their town. What restaurant do they want to eat at that they like the best? And that's always the decision.
Oh,
So, like,
yeah.
I forgot, let's use an example from where you live. Let's say, like, Pigskins. You guys decide, like, if we go out to eat, we're always going to go to Pigskins unless we
Yeah.
want something else. But that
Yeah.
decision's already done. So there's
Yeah.
no like, where are we going to go eat? Well, we know we're going to go eat Pigskins unless you're feeling something else tonight.
Yeah. That's true. There's like a default decision. It's
Yes.
already been
And I
made.
love that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Um, I've heard that about Steve Jobs and other successful people that they limit what's in their wardrobe because they're trying to maximize that level of creativity because decisions do take energy.
Mhm.
Just like, yeah, but deciding to be indecisive also takes a lot of energy.
Yes.
It's like having one of those programs going, in the background of your computer all the
Yes.
time. Like
Yeah.
it's yeah, taking up energy whether you acknowledge it or not. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you haven't made the decision.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love also, she said, like, when she goes to a restaurant, she finds like the first thing on the menu, like that, like she remotely kindly likes,
Yeah.
right? And decides that's what she's going to get. So the decision's decided. And then she'll look over the menu and see if there's anything else that like lights her up that she really wants. But if not, then she goes with
The first one.
the first
Yeah.
decision.
Oh, that's pretty safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it helps
Yeah.
cut down on indecision and that like pressure, like, oh, the waitress is here. I need 5 more minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's a good strategy. I usually try to see, well, I've already decided where I want to eat ahead of time, or if it's like a meeting and I want to know what the menu is ahead of time, because I
Mhm.
know that it's going to take me a while to go through. But I like that strategy. It's like, okay, I know that I can eat this. This sounds good. So
Mhm.
then, yeah, I'll skim the rest. But we'll be happy with the first choice.
Yeah. Like I
Yeah.
always, every restaurant, like unless it's Asian, like I already have decided I'm going to eat a salad.
Yeah.
And then if I don't find a salad on there, or if I find something else that seems even more delicious than a salad, I'll choose that. But
Yeah.
I've already come into the restaurant knowing like I go straight to the salad section.
Yeah. Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
Because what happens is we get overwhelmed. Like we look at
Exactly.
all these options and then we're in overwhelm.
Yeah. And I'm easily prone to being in an overwhelm. So I like the idea of shortcuts or like,
Yeah.
yeah, having a pattern or like an equation of like, okay, this is how I'm going to make this decision, you
Mhm.
know, helps helps me to see it like and to be able to kind of process things, and also keeps it in perspective of like, what you eat today is really really not a big deal in the big
Right.
scheme of things. Like, yeah. Whether, yeah, it's at the end of the meal, whether it's something that you really enjoyed or not, well, then for next time. Don't order that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. That's all I got.
I think that's great.
All right. Thanks, guys.